All right, remember that we said step 2 is going to be where we're going to be asking a lot of questions. And we're going to find out a lot more about their motivation and what they're wishing to accomplish. This is at the table, probably. We hope it's at the table where everybody feels comfortable. And many times they'll say to you, come on in the living room and sit down. Come on into the den and sit down. But this is where I'm going to make a suggestion. Oh, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, is it all right if we sit at the kitchen table? Because most everyone feels comfortable at the kitchen table. Don't you? Where do people end up when they come to your house? You have a group in, a party, or something like that. They end up in the kitchen, don't they? Because everyone feels comfortable in the kitchen. Sitting there drinking a glass of iced tea or a cup of coffee or a Coke is going to make them feel comfortable. It's going to make you feel comfortable. And this is the time when we're also finding out about how long it will take them to make these maintenance repairs that we have talked about as we have walked through the house. We don't want to put the house on the market and have people coming through and seeing these things that have not been done. So as a good agent, a professional agent that wants a good listing and wants that listing to show well, we'll work with these sellers to find out how long will it take you, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, to go ahead and make these repairs. Now, I would prefer, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, that we don't put the house on the market until you go ahead and make sure that you have these things done. Because what happens, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, is that an agent comes in to show the house and they see these 20 things that need to be done to the house. They are very minor to you, but they become very big to someone else, a buyer prospect. And that agent goes back to their office, and maybe there's 50 agents in their office, and they'll say, oh, you don't need to show that house on 123 Main Street because it has a lot of problems. It has a lot of work that needs to be done to it. It doesn't show that well. You see, we don't want your house to get a bad reputation. We want it to have a good reputation. So we're going to say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, could you get these things done within this week? Do you think that maybe this weekend that your husband could have time to do these few things that needs to be done? And then what we will be doing is keying in on a time frame in which they will do them. If they promise to do them in a certain time, they probably will. And Mr. and Mrs. Seller will go ahead and list your house today. Excuse me. We'll list your house today. But what we'll do is to wait to put the sign up in the front yard. And we'll wait to put it in multiple listing at your instructions until you get these repairs made. And since you have said you can do this in a week's time, we'll put it in multiple listing, and then you decide on that date. And we'll make a notation on the listing form that they will go ahead and initial for us saying that it's to be put into multiple listing at that certain time. Then what you're doing is putting the house on the market with all of these necessary repairs that you see and that they have been able to agree to make sure that these repairs have been made and that the house is going to show a lot better. Now, during this time that we're asking these probing questions, we're building more and more rapport. What has happened is we have gone through that house. We've seen pictures that would be sort of a common bond, a common thread to us. Maybe we saw a picture of them water skiing, and you say, oh, well, we have water skiers in our family. Snow skiing. Oh, we love to go snow skiing too. And so you have this common bond. Maybe you graduated from the same college or university, and you see the certificates there or the diplomas on the wall in their den or in their office space. And this is all the more a way that we can build rapport and earn a little bit more trust. And remember, trust is something we earn. And when they know that they can trust us, then we have a much easier job. And it'll be a pleasure also. So we've asked a lot of questions. We have determined whether or not they are motivated. And also, we have determined the length of time that it's going to take them to go ahead and make those repairs to the house so that it will make the house show extremely well. Now, step 3. Some of the things that I'll be sharing with you then, as we have told them, why people have chosen my company, why they have chosen me to market their house that is unique. And then this is when we're going to be giving them this detailed listing presentation. And then I'll give you all the facts that you need to make a logical decision about the price. This is where we're going to be bringing out that competitive market analysis, and we are going to be giving them the interpretation of that market analysis. What we need to do is really to have a lot of good pictures in that market analysis, preferably in color because it's going to show a lot better. That's going to show them what their neighbors' houses have sold for. And we do know in that market analysis that the appraisers, when they are appraising a house, are going to be looking for those comps that are in 6 months old, that's close to this house, in this same neighborhood, if at all possible. Or if there's not good comps within 6 months, then they'll go back for a year. This is something that we need to have all of those details together and be able to show them. This is the house right down the street from you. This is the house 3 blocks away from you. And this was the Smith's house. This was the Jones house. And you're showing them the price that it was listed for. And you're also showing them the price that it sold for. Another thing that you're showing them is if there were concessions made at the time of closing. Did the seller pay the closing cost for the buyers? Did the seller pay any expense for the buyers? Did the house sell for what the list price was? Probably not, because most of the time it doesn't, as you know. But you're giving them a wealth of information when you go over the competitive market analysis, and you're showing them how the house does compare. And remember that one of the things that we need to say to them, regardless of what your house sells for, it's got to appraise if there is going to be a mortgage on it. And this is one reason the competitive market analysis is so important, because this is showing them all the property in the market, a place that has sold, that the appraisers will be taken into consideration in putting an appraisal price on their house. And then we're giving them plenty of time to ask questions, making them feel very, very comfortable, and helping them to go over the listing with us, or they're helping us in answering all of those questions, because, as you know, the listing details are very specific to that property, and we have to be sure that we've got the right answers on them. Now, in selling ourselves, according to our listing presentation, we've already mentioned the 4 parts that we have to have here. But let's think about this visual presentation and the being so important too. We talked about a PowerPoint presentation on your computer or the print. Now, this reminds us, when we've got something like this, to say everything that we need to say to show them why they should list with our company and why they should list with me, or why they should list with your company, why they should list with you, and helping them to decide. Now, we ask the question, do you treat the sellers, all the sellers, the same way all the time? Remember, as far as fair housing is concerned, yes, we treat them all the same. But as far as the way we talk with them and communicate with them, they have their own style, and we have to know what that style is. So our profession dictates that we understand the consumers. They have to feel comfortable, and they can only feel comfortable when we know how to relate to them. Think about this. We've got to educate the consumer. It's a must. But think about this. We are being educated ourselves at the same time that we're educating them. We're finding out what is their style in which they like to be treated. And everyone doesn't necessarily work the very same way. Excuse me. Behavioral styles determine how we must communicate with them. And if we're going to truly relate to them, we've got to sort of understand what is their behavioral style. Understand the style, and then communicating accordingly will result in getting more listings in a shorter time and getting good listings. We've got to make them feel very, very comfortable, and we have got to make them feel confident. Now, when we are giving a listing presentation and communicating with them, we've got to pause and let them have time to think through what we're saying to them, and let them have time to ask questions. Have you ever thought about it? A lot of times when we are talking with people and they're quiet, we think we've got to keep the conversation going all the time. So we keep on talking. But really, they need to have time to think and formulate any question they have for us, or express anything that they want to about it. So listen to what they're saying. Truly listen to what they're saying. Be a good listener, and don't hurry them at all. I think about a listing appointment that I went on with an agent one time. And this seller of the property was very interested in going ahead and putting her house on the market because her husband had already gone to another state. He had left her here in the local area with a business to operate. But he also had left her with her 3 small children. I believe the oldest one might have been 11 or 12 years old, and they were on down to a baby that was in a stroller. And these children were so involved, and she's taken them to ballparks and to gyms and different places all the time while she's running this business and keeping up the house. Well, she got very tired of that, and she called and wanted to go ahead and sell her house. Now, when the listing agent that I went along with had done a competitive market analysis, she found out that the house right next door to this lady was for sale. And she found out what the price was, and she compared tax records and all of the details that she could find in the public records about the house. And then as she had been thinking about this and going over this in the competitive market analysis, and we also had been asking a lot of questions before of this lady that wanted to list her house, we just heard her say something that really made us think differently from the way she was saying it. So we had to step back and think about what she said. It turned out that as we were going over the competitive market analysis, that we said, well, you know, the house right next door to you is for sale. And we told her the price that house was for sale for. And then she said to us, but my house is much nicer than that one. It's got the den, that our playroom that we finished downstairs in the basement with the half bath down there. and it's got all of these built-in bookshelves and the TV cabinets and the audio speakers here in this den upstairs. That house next door doesn't have that. The agent and I actually heard that, and we misinterpreted what she was saying. We interpreted what she said to say, in our mind, that she was wanting more money for her house than the one right next door. We knew the one right next door was a little bit overpriced according to our competitive market analysis. But we said, well, we could go ahead and put yours on the market, and we gave her a price that was pretty close to the one next door. And we said, and it probably should sell for sell within 90 to 120 days. She said, you didn't hear what I said. I didn't mean that at all. I want to move next week. She was so motivated to go ahead and get over to Atlanta, where her husband was living, and have some help from him with the children and all of their activities, and not having to be managing this business here. She had found a manager for this business here that she could trust, and she had already hired that manager. So she was ready to go, and she wanted to put her house on the market, and she wanted to move the next week. Well, our agent was very, very astute, and she said, oh, I hear what you're saying. Well, if you want to sell in a big hurry, and money is not the object, then I would suggest that we put your house on the market a little bit below what other houses in the neighborhood have sold for. It turned out, she said, that's what I want. Money is not the object. It's time. I want to move next week. So we found out what the motivation was. We listed the house at below market value right there, with her full cooperation and her full permission to do that. Put the sign in the yard. As we are putting the sign up in the yard, the agent who has the listing next door walks up. She said, oh, what price do you have on the house? We told her. She said, no need to even put the sign up. I've got it sold. She had picked up some prospects on showing her house next door that she had listed. She brought to this couple in that same day, within a couple of hours after the sign went up in the yard. And she wrote an offer. It became a contract, and the house was sold in about 2 hours' time, because it was priced below the market value, and also it was in extremely good condition. But there we had a very motivated seller. And always you have to find out what is the motivation. Many, many times it is going to be, I want the highest price that I can get. But there's going to be a few times that price is not going to be the motivation. It is the convenience. It's the terms. This lady was wanting to get to a place that her husband could go ahead and have a lot of responsibility for these children and just make sure that she had some help. It's very nice when you have someone that's so motivated that price is not the object, because pricing a property below the market value with their permission and with their full informed consent, then that will be a quick sale, generally speaking. This lady felt very comfortable. She felt very confident, and she was very happy to work under those conditions, that she put the house on the market at a price under the market price there.